degree, and she's going to win it by some margin as well.
Joining us on the show today, a British racing driver who's been taking it to the boys for over 10 years. She's won in Minis, Saxos and Porsches, and today Lydia Walmsley joins us on the show.
Away we go. Walmsley makes a very good start indeed from the front row of the grid. Lydia comes to the outside line to grab the racing line down into riches. Lydia Walmsley, as I say, is leading the Club Sport Pro division and therefore is on for a maiden victory of the season.
Hi Lydia, how are you today?
Hi Drew, I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Not so bad, thank you, not so bad. So, we've got quite an interesting season coming up for you, haven't we, in 26? But what I would like to ask you first is, what does a typical race weekend look like for you? How does that begin for you in the team?
So our race weekend, again, is quite involved. So we don't just rock up and the car's there ready to go. My dad is very much involved alongside Dave with that. Pre-race weekend, they're making sure that the car is ready and my dad's going along and setting it up and things. I am there earlier than most drivers because obviously we trailer the car ourselves. So we get there on a Thursday. I'd like to say I help set up. I'm not usually allowed to help set up because I'm quite accident prone, but I watch set up happen. And a lot of it is social media and things. So I'll do some bits for social media on the Thursday, and then the Friday is a test day. So usually we get 2 sessions on the Friday, and then into the race weekend on Saturday and Sunday. So it is quite jam packed actually, and we are there for longer than I think most people think we're there. Because obviously you tune into the TV on a Sunday, and a lot of the time people probably think that's it. But we're kind of loading up on the Wednesday, getting there on the Thursday, and then sometimes leaving on the Monday. So we are there for quite a while.
It's pretty involved and it's non-stop from start to finish.
It is. I mean, in all fairness, we have 4 sessions across a race weekend, so they are quite spread out. But in terms of, we welcome the sponsors along, so the people that are helping me fund my career, we bring them along, and by the time you've obviously chatted to them and been with them and spent some time with them and done some content for social media and things, and then greeted all the motorsport fans that have come along, we get huge crowds with the touring cars. So they're coming through the paddock wanting to chat to you. And but by the time you get to the end of the weekend, in all fairness, you're more tired from doing all of that than you are actually racing. But it's lovely because without that, obviously the weekend would probably be quite a long weekend. But I mean, it's gone in a flash. It is very busy.
Yeah, I mean the BTCC race weekends are, if you've never been, are actually amazing, and you can get so close, which is so nice to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And it's like that all the way down, including the grassroots lower levels, which is, I believe, where you started at 7, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was. I mean, to be honest, I always say motorsport is one of the most accessible sports there are. You've touched on it then, but if you go to a football match, the chances of chatting to a footballer is very slim. Whereas you come to a race weekend and you can pretty much chat to any driver you want to chat to, talk to the mechanics, you can get up and close to the cars, which I think a lot of the time people watch F1 and you wouldn't be able to do that with even F1. However, from the sort of our level and like you say, down to grassroots level, it is very accessible and people can get involved, which is lovely. But yes, I started karting when I was 7 years old. I got into it because my dad used to race on oval circuits and we used to live pretty much next to one of those. So it was like a 1/4 mile oval and he used to race things like Legends, which we have on the circuits, but that was on the ovals for him. 2-litre hot rods, that kind of thing. So I just showed an interest and my parents decided to take me karting. Probably thinking it was like a one-time thing, because you know what kids are like. They do something for like 2 weeks, move on to something else. And I was actually very into dance at the time. So I think they thought that was going to be my kind of career path. But yeah, I decided, no, karting it was. And I loved it from the moment that I began, really. Again, much probably to the disappointment of my mum, who hasn't had many holidays since then. But yeah, and that's where it started, really. And then every year we kind of moved on to doing something different or moved up a rank. Or stayed in the same category for a couple of years and then would move on. And every year it just kind of got more and more serious. And before you know it, we're racing on the circuits. I started racing on the circuits when I was 14 in the Junior Saloon Car Championship. So I could race around the circuits before I could drive around a roundabout, which was quite funny. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey. And it's gone by in a flash, actually, which is, again, it's been a long time. I started karting when I was 7 and I'm now 24, just turned 24. So it has been a long journey, but it has gone by in a flash. It's gone so fast.
It wasn't just the speed of progression, though. You've had quite a lot of success throughout those years, even from your karting days. It's not like you spent a couple of years sort of learning the craft and then the success came. It came actually quite early, didn't it?
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we've always worked really hard, and I think because up until last year, I mentioned we've always been a family-run team. So I think everyone within the team has always had a really big passion for doing as well as we can, and we've all got best interests at heart. And I think when it's personal to you try that little bit harder, don't you? So I've got a mechanic in my dad and Dave, who have huge invested interest, and they go above and beyond really to make it work for me. I mean, even this year when we're running with a team, I'm with a team now that share that same ethos, but even behind that, I've still got my dad and Dave kind of behind the scenes working as hard as they can once again to get the car as good as it can be. And I think that really makes a difference. I think when you've got that family unit behind you and that support system as well, everyone's pulling the boat in the right direction, or in the same direction at least, and that makes a massive difference. But yeah, all the way from karting, we kind of decided that we wouldn't move on from a category until we kind of believed that we'd done as well as we could do. And that doesn't always mean winning a championship, because I think going into a championship, there's a lot of luck that goes into winning a championship. And obviously you could work year after year after year and something happen that doesn't make that happen. But that's not saying we haven't won championships. And we became back-to-back champions in karting when I was 13 and 14 in 2 different classes. So that has happened. But yeah, when we believe that we've kind of reached a really good potential, we try and move on. Which with the minis, we finished on the podium. We were having regular top 5 finishes, and that for us was kind of cemented ourselves within that championship. And then we decided to move on to Porsche. But yeah, we do try our best and take it to the big teams as much as we can anyway.
And so you should. It's always good to see. Yeah, I don't even think the term underdog really applies to you, to be fair, Lydia. But for want of a better way of putting it, it's always nice to see those private teams doing well, especially against much bigger teams with much bigger budgets. It's one of those classic stories of motorsport, isn't it?
Well, it is. And also with the manpower side of things, I mean, we would turn up and in all fairness, we had our awning and a lorry, but it was, I say only, I mean, my dad, it was a lockdown project for my dad in the front garden to transform a 7.5 ton lorry into kind of a race truck for us. So yeah, he's handy in many ways, my dad. But anyway, but then we'd rock up with our 7.5 ton lorry, which we thought was quite large for our front garden. And then everyone else had their articulated lorries with their massive awnings out the side. And yeah, we were very much a tiny little fish in a humongous pond. And even when something went wrong and the gearbox needed to come out of it, or I don't know, I'd given it a prang and it needed some repairs. You look around the paddock and there's a lot of cars with a lot more manpower than what we had. I mean, we had 2 pairs of hands realistically that could fix that car. And, I was doing everything else from like my social media. We were doing our own teamwear. So I printed all my own teamwear in my garage last year. Wow. I'm finding all my partners myself. So it really is a team effort that we are doing everything ourselves. And obviously that has changed a little bit last year with hiring a car from somebody else. But the same kind of ethos applies, and we're still doing pretty much everything ourselves, which I think is quite unusual really within motorsport. Usually you plough a lot of money in and it's you rock up and it's all ready for you and sorted, whereas we're kind of doing it behind the scenes purely just to keep the costs down, because like you say, it is so expensive. And without that, I've got some fantastic resources here that I can use in my mechanics and things, which keeps the costs down a little bit. So that's kind of what we have to do.
To be fair then, on such a limited budget comparative to the other teams in the paddock, the achievements that you've had are all the more important then. It means more because you don't have those resources. You've had to work harder, longer, later. It probably stands for a bit more than just, it would do for a regular team, perhaps.
I know for me, when I stand on the podium, it means a huge amount to me because, like you say, I've seen how much has gone into it. So yeah, you do go the extra mile because it means so much to you and you know what's being put in behind the scenes. So yes, it definitely means the absolute world to me. And to even make it to the grid is an achievement in itself. So
absolutely.
Yeah, in terms of my partners and my team and things, they are the ones that get me there. Ultimately, I stand on the podium at the end of the day, but it's a whole team of people and partners behind it that actually make it happen. And they're the ones really that should be stood on the podium and not me.
In terms of resources then, how did you get on with your own personal driver development in terms of taking what you'd learned from the karting tracks to the circuits and learning whatever it was that you needed to learn in order to get that lap time?
It has been difficult. To begin with, I did have a driver coach, Joe, who he was from Scotland, so we couldn't have lived further apart, but bless him, he did travel all around the UK with us to begin with, or for a good few years actually, for 4 or so years. So when I transitioned from karting to cars, obviously it is a huge change, like you say, and I was 14, like I could not drive, so I didn't understand weight transfer. My dad taught me to drive down a pothole-filled runway, which was one of the most stressful experiences ever, but I then took my ARDS licence, which is obviously your motorsport licence, around Silverstone, and in all fairness, I don't really know how I passed because I could barely drive, I could barely change gear. The poor instructor that did it must have taken pity on me and just passed me. But obviously I understood racing line and things, but in terms of weight transfer in a car, it's very, very different to a go-kart that's sat on the floor. So it was a big learning curve, and when you're young, when you haven't got an actual driving license, you do need an instructor sat next to you. So I had Joe sat next to me for a number of years actually, and he stayed with me even when I went into Mini Coopers. We couldn't get data or anything out of the cars. It was literally just watching a video. So that was then when having someone sat next to you is a lot easier at that stage. However, when we went to the JCW, there was a lot more telemetry that you could get out of the vehicle. But at that point, I didn't have a driver coach. And being a single car team, we weren't able to kind of correlate our data to another car. So it was then harder to, as a driver, to see where I was slow, where I was not too bad, and where I could improve because there was no one to compare with. It was almost just watching the footage back at the end of the weekend and trying to see where perhaps we were losing out on time. But that is a very slow process because obviously you are doing it on your own until you have someone to compare with and you realise, actually, that's a lot easier now that I can see that they're braking 5 meters later than I am, or picking the power up a little bit earlier, that kind of thing, because we're looking for such tiny margins. I mean, we're looking for tenths of a second. We're not looking for 5 seconds here. We're looking for 4 tenths from the front of the grid to the back of the grid. I mean, you wouldn't be able to even stop it on a stopwatch, and yet we're trying to find that around 3-mile circuits. So it is really in data. A lot of the time you can't really even see it in the video. It's just in the data and the squiggly little lines that we get on our computers and our laptops.
Those fine margins get harder and harder and harder to find the closer and closer you get to each other. And I think it's a lot of people might not quite understand how difficult that is, that process of finding that last 5-10%. You mentioned that it hasn't been an easy road, and you've had your fair share of offs, including, unfortunately, breaking your leg in 2012, I think it was.
Yes. Do you know what? Whenever I have an accident, it's usually a humongous one. So I don't have many, but when I have them, they are usually quite large.
Well, if you're going to do it, you have to do it properly.
Well, my mechanic Dave says it's all about the photo. So as long as it makes a good photo, that's all that matters. But I mean, I would have rather have not broken my leg and had me saxo upside down and not killing things. But there we go. As long as you've got a story to tell at the end of it, apparently it's good. So
well, like you say, if you're not going fast enough, you're not trying hard enough. So
well, we are obviously, when you say we're looking for the final tenths of a second, you kind of are putting everything into it. I mean, the broken leg when I was 10 in 2012 was just an incident, a first corner incident. And in all fairness, kart circuits are built on a runway, so when you leave the smooth tarmac and you end up on the runway, it's quite bumpy. So what realistically happened to me was my kart was basically bumping along the runway, and pressing the brake wasn't really slowing it down much, and that's how that happened. But yes, like you say, we're on such a fine margin, and if you're playing it safe, you're never gonna you may as well not even try. Do you see what I mean? You have to kind of do as much as you can, and when it goes wrong, it's these things happen. I mean, if you've never had an accident, I feel like you've probably not given everything your 100%. But unfortunately for me, usually it's never a minor. But there we go.
It certainly creates a bit of action for the fans, if nothing else, as long as you're all right.
I mean, we'd rather not do it, but yes, you're right. The cars are very safe, so we are having an accident in the right place. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So what were those Saxos like for you then, going from karting to the Saxo? What sort of change was that?
Oh, it was mental, really. When you think that we were being unleashed on a national circuit like Silverstone, and there's 30 of us pounding around and none of us can drive. Who thinks that's a great idea? But it is just mental. Yeah, it is crazy. It's a great idea. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, it is 14 to 17. So in all fairness, some of the kids there could drive, but I mean, the majority of them can't. And you're just racing around Saxos. And it is great actually, because at the time I had a scrapyard sponsor, and all the Saxos were in the scrapyard. So whenever I did have the little prang, you could always go along and they'd be like, "Here's another shell," and we'd just reshell it, but I'll put a new door on it or something. But it was crazy, really. And in all fairness, the only time that we were driving was when we were on the race circuit. So a lot of energy was actually going into, or mental energy was going into actually figuring out how to drive. I mean, my first ever race start was absolutely horrendous, but it was at Knock Hill, which for anyone that knows Knock Hill, it's literally uphill, or well, given the name, but the starting grid is literally a handbrake start, which I'd never even done a race start before, let alone used a handbrake. So safe to say that didn't go very well, but it is a baptism of fire, and you do learn pretty quick. But being on track with 25, 30 other kids basically is just absolutely ridiculous. In cars, it's just mental. But it's great fun, and what a learning platform to be on. It is really cool. And I moved into Mini Coopers, which was a senior category when I was 16, so again still couldn't drive, and then I was competing against adults, but at that time the Mini Coopers were on slick tyres, so again it's learning a slick tyre as early as you can, and that sets you up really for your career, I think, because you've started as early as possible. It is fantastic really when you think about it, but pretty nutty at the same time.
Yeah, and it's really close racing in the JSCC as well. It's nose to tail. There's not really a lot of gaps. It's not like you're opening up a 30-second lead or anything, which is very similar to the minis. I might add, that's also very highly close competition. I mean, you mentioned there about learning slick tyres. It's not just a case of going out on them and discovering the grip. It's preparation of that tyre as well, isn't it, that you've got to learn?
It is, yeah. And to be fair, when you start on slick tyres, I think everyone falls foul of, particularly in a front-wheel drive car, not warming the rear tyres enough and having an off on a first lap. And in all fairness, it's better to do that in something that's a lot cheaper to fix, like a Mini Cooper, which again are all in the scrapyard, than doing it in something like my Porsche now. It's a lot. I mean, to be fair, the Porsche is different because obviously it's rear-wheel drive, so it's easier to get heat in the rear, but it's a lot better to do it at something relatively low level and make those mistakes there than it is to be kind of going in at the deep end. But yeah, particularly with a front-wheel drive car, heat in the rear tyres is hard to get. Because obviously they're not the driving wheels, they're basically trolley wheels. They're just following around the car, following around the front wheels. So they are quite hard to get heat in. And if you're on a nice cold day at Snetterton, it's harder to do that. So yeah, it is a skill. I think when you first start doing it, you just think, oh, it's a slick tyre, it's going to have heat in it, it's going to give me loads of grip, which it does. But obviously, like you say, you have to prepare that tyre, and that's all a learning curve, and it's just experience, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no tyre warmers in those formulas for a start, so you don't have that. But also, unlike the BTCC, you can't come back in after a couple of laps, swap them around and go back out again. You have to do it all on track for all four corners.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, with qualifying and things, we did used to do kind of that BTCC style thing. So I would go out, have the rears on the front, and vice versa, and then swap them around, and that would then you'd then be there a lot quicker. But like you say, with a race, for example, at least you do have a green flag lap. But yeah, that is all you have, and if you've not got the heat in that tyre, by the time you get to turn one, you're in trouble. So yeah, you have to. I mean, in all fairness, a green flag lap is exhausting because it's just constant braking, weaving, just doing everything you can to get some heat into that tyre. And we, during COVID, we raced at Donington in minus numbers in December because obviously the season was obviously delayed because of COVID, and the final round got cancelled. And then in the end, they said, "Would you like to go racing in December?" And we were all like, "Yeah, why not?" And it was, honestly, we were going around on slicks and it was literally icy. And I don't even know how there weren't more offs. I think we actually ended up having to run like wets, half and half, like 6 on the front, wets on the rear or something, just to have something on the rear end. But yeah, it's all right on a nice summer's day, a nice hot sunny day. But December, Donington, -5 degrees. That's a lot harder.
On one of those typical grey British days that we have a lot of. It must be fairly tricky to sort of find that balance. And I can't imagine going full tilt into the first corner and not really knowing how much grip you had and not being 100% certain until you've done that first lap. That's it's got to be a pretty special experience.
Yeah, it's good in a front-wheel drive car, in all fairness, because if it's all going wrong, you just bury your foot on the power and drag it back straight. So, once you get your head around doing that, because obviously that's not really the typical thing that you would do if it was going wrong. Obviously, you'd want to slow it down. So burying your foot on the power is almost the opposite thing of what your brain wants you to do. But once you get the hang of that, you can actually, with front-wheel drive, kind of drag it back most of the time. So it's just as long as you don't get collected while you're having your slide, you're usually all right.
That's a problem in itself, isn't it, really? Yeah, especially in the minis. Oh God, it's so much fun to watch though with those minis. But very, very quickly you went from the Coopers to the John Coopers, which I know sounds similar, but it's really not, is it? The two cars are very, very different.
No, the John Cooper Works Mini is basically like a Mini on steroids. I mean, when we started, I can't remember what year now, it's like 2021 or something, they were actually more powerful than they are now. But they ended up decreasing the power just a little bit because it was putting a lot of strain on all the components on the car. But when I first joined, they were like 380 odd horsepower or something. Obviously quite a short car, very short wheelbase, so naturally twitchy. And in all fairness, when you're having that slide and you're burying your foot on the power, usually they just spit in the other direction. They were so unpredictable. One lap you'd do it fine, and then the next lap you'd think you'd done exactly the same thing and it'd nearly try and kill you. Honestly, they were so hard to drive, and we've had touring car drivers actually get in them and come in sort of halfway through a race and said like, it must be broken because it's literally trying to kill me, and the team would be like, no, that is how it is, off you go.
That's normal, carry on.
So Mini Cooper was basically had a lot more grip than it did power, and then we went to a JCW and it was basically the other way around, but a great car to learn, unlike any other car you'd ever drive. It was the most rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive car you'd ever have because they were so twitchy on the rear end. It was ridiculous. But great fun. But it did take a bit of getting used to be fair.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, those JCWs, or rather the series, the JCW Minis, is pretty much a platform for BTCC. Is that where you're headed to ultimately?
That's always a hard question because a lot of it obviously comes down to finances. When I was younger, I always used to watch the British Touring Car Championship and think, gosh, I would love to do that one day. And even now when I'm still on the package, I still get excited when I hear the touring cars go out. I just think it's such a fantastic show. And I think it is more than just a race series, isn't it? It is a little bit of a show, but I love the racing. It's close racing. I guess sometimes it does have a bit of contact, which I'm not like the biggest fan of, but I think for the spectators, obviously, it's great to watch. When you watch it on the TV, I would love to be a part of that grid, but again, it just depends on the finances. But it is the place to be. Obviously, with it being on ITV4, and we have hundreds of thousands of trackside spectators every year. So from a marketing point of view, it's massive. I mean, even with us in the Porsches, we're a support series for the British touring cars, and we get all of those privileges. So it is a brilliant platform. And I think if you want to kind of make a career out of British motorsport, you need to be on that package. So it is the top of the tree really for British motorsport, isn't it? In terms of tin top racing. But with the Porsches, I think it has opened different doors, or may potentially in the future open different doors into more like GT racing. And I would love to do Le Mans. So again, very different, but it's kind of opening up to a different route. Whereas I think if I were to have stayed in the minis, I think I would have been almost pitching my hole in myself into just touring cars. Whereas now I would still love to do touring cars. Don't get me wrong. It's been a lifelong goal for a long, long time. But I'm also looking at that GT route and thinking that's also something very exciting. So I think it has opened my eyes a little bit more. And yeah, I'm not set in stone on touring cars, but it would be amazing, obviously, if I could do it. But it just all depends on the money, sadly. Yeah. No matter how well we were to do in the Porsches, it doesn't obviously guarantee you anything.
No, and there's obviously a limited amount of seats in the touring car grid anyway.
Yeah.
Although this year's been not so bad for people entering the grid. But the thing is, once you get up to the Porsches, probably the minis as well, to be fair, that upwards, it all sorts of crisscrosses anyway. So yes, you might end up, you might be doing the Porsches now and you might end up in GT later, but there's nothing stopping you coming back to do touring cars later, and vice versa. Exactly. Is there? There's certainly, just by doing one series, it's not taking you out of the race for touring cars in the future. So yeah. You never know. we might see you on that grid yet.
Yeah, open-minded.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those Porsches make such a sound. And I think you're going into the top RS class this year, aren't you?
Well, this is the thing. Currently don't have the budget to do so. So I haven't signed up yet. That is the goal. And what are we on? We're second week of March, aren't we? So I've got about a month to kind of sort it out, which is not a lot of time. So I am getting a little bit stressed. So at the moment, it's not officially happening, but I am very much working as hard as I can every minute of every day, trying to get the funding to do it. So yes, that is the goal, to step up to the front category of the Sprint Challenge, which would be amazing if we can get it done. But like you say, I mean, when you say about the sound, the machine is the quality of the car is just second to none. I mean, I've got my dad there and Dave mechanicking on the car, but in all fairness, you don't really need a mechanic because it just runs itself. I mean, they do 24-hour races, don't they? So that the components on them are so long lasting and such a quality product, which is amazing. And I think when you think of the horsepower and the fact that we're revving it to 7,500 revs every gear change and things, and it still holds together, just goes to show how good the manufacturing on it really is. And it is a quality product.
Yeah, absolute second to none. And those RSs are like 500 brake horsepower. So you got a fair push under that right foot. So,
yeah. And a bit of a step from what I did last year, really. Adding another 75 horsepower and yeah, it's apparently it's almost Cooper to JCW type step.
Oh wow!
We'll see. But it would be good. It would be nice to get out testing if we do manage to get it sorted. But I fear that it will be so. I do manage to get it sorted, it'll be so last minute that I probably won't get to go testing. So I'll be right in at the deep end, round one. No idea what I'm doing. Well, I have some experience, obviously.
Yeah.
I know.
I know.
It's just a step, quite a fair chunky step, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll be fine.
Well, yeah, you've done that sort of thing before, haven't you? With the big jumps. Let's stick with the Porsches for now. So there's two classes of cars, isn't there?
Yeah, so they're all 718 Cayman GT4 Porsches. There's a Club Sport category, which is what I did last year. And basically that's the 425 horsepower engine. And what I'm trying to do this year is the RS category, which is, like you said before, 500 horsepower engine. But the main difference, or obviously that's a big difference, but one of the other differences is the panels. So the RS category has hemp panels, which for those of you that don't know, it's basically like a plant-based product. Not very cheap to replace. But yeah, basically all the panels are changing. It's got a little bit more downforce and things. So they're the main differences, but it is a split grid. So they both run on the same grid, but obviously the RS is the faster car.
I've already had some success. Last year, your first year in Porsches, it was so was it second place in Donington that you got, and then the second round you won.
Yeah, quite early on.
Very impressive. I mean, for anyone, you've got your jump from the cars that you were driving to the Porsches, and then you've done one race, come second, and then come first in the next one. I mean, that's a huge progression.
I mean, I think it just goes to show kind of when you've got a really good support around you. We did do a few days testing before the season started. So at least this last year, in all fairness, was the first year ever, I think, that we really hit the ground running, because previously we'd never really had a huge testing budget. Not that I did last year, but I had a lot of support because I think everyone knew that it was going to be a bit of a step and I needed time in the car. So that was made a little bit easier. But it was good. It was a bit of a surprise, in all fairness, but the whole year was excellent, really. We finished the season as vice champions, so second in the championship, which again was quite unexpected. You don't really expect to go into something totally new. It's not even like I'd done rear-wheel drive before. I'd never raced a rear-wheel drive car. It was rear engine, so or engine behind you anyway, mid-engine. So it was all the weight is at the wrong end as well. So yeah, it's it was very unexpected, but I think once you've got that momentum, it's easier to carry it on, really. I mean, we were going to circuits and things that I hadn't tested at in that car, and were still relatively on the pace from the get-go, really. And we obviously had the test day prior to every race weekend, and I had a driver coach helping me, and we got data to compare with, which I think just makes all the difference. I think that just goes to prove how much we had been missing out on previously, really.
Sure. Is there much in the way of a weight disadvantage, or maybe not disadvantage, but do they feel heavier, the Porsches?
I think it's just because of where the weight is. So my driver coach would always tell me that the only thing over the front axle was your ankles. So it was just the way in which you had to drive the car in order to minimise the understeer. So if you were to release the brake early in the corner. So basically we were braking into the apex, because that was just keeping the weight down on the front end. If you weren't to do that, which to begin with, obviously I wasn't, because that wasn't how I had been taught to drive. It was just understeering. And that's then when you really recognise the weight and where the weight is. However, if you drive it in the correct manner, they are very responsive. But as soon as you think, this car's not handling very well, I almost have to think back, am I driving it correctly? And most of the time it was a no, because I was so used to driving in a different way. I mean, I was unlearning probably 10 years of, or maybe not quite that many, but a good 7 years of front-wheel drive driving. And it was very easy to slip back into that, particularly when there was a lot going on. If I had cars around me and things, it was very easy to kind of forget what you were doing with that and focus on other things. And then all of a sudden, the car's not driving very well. I'd come in, I'd be like, it's understeering, we need to fix it. And they'd look at the footage and they'd be like, no, you're just not you're not braking in the right way. I'd be like, I'll try again.
It's retraining. It's retraining your muscle memory.
It is.
Which isn't a conscious thing at all, is it? So that sort of thing takes time, I would assume. So,
yeah, it does.
Is there many other women competing in that class at the moment with you?
Actually, within Porsche, there are quite a few women. I say quite a few. There were 4 on the grid last year. I obviously don't know who's racing this year or not. But 4 on the grid last year out of, I think, 25 or something. So the proportion was actually quite good, but that's very unusual. I mean, all 3 minis. The most I ever competed against was one other lady. But previously to that, I mean, most of the time you were the only female on the grid out of 28 or so drivers. So yeah, that was quite unheard of actually last year, to have 4 of us on the grid. But yeah, we are very much the minority. I mean, even within other aspects of motorsport. So when you look at the mechanicking side of things, or coaching, or any aspect of motorsport is very much male dominated. I suppose with the exception of the hospitality sector. But other than that, within motorsport, it is very male dominated. But it's nice to be able to compete on a level playing field. So I love it. I guess we just need to encourage more girls in at a younger age, and that would then probably start to shift a little bit.
So I've got 3 daughters. I've been trying to get them into it. And I think of the three, only one of them really, truly is a proper fan. And I think I'm beginning to wonder what I've started, to be fair.
Yeah,
but
that's the issue.
But yeah,
you have to be careful.
yeah. But I guess you're right. Start them young, just like boys have been doing for years. And it's not just driving. Like you say, you've mentioned all the other areas of the team, including the mechanicking side and the engineering side and all that. There's so many different areas that you can go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are interested, just go and have a look and have we can talk to you, can't we? So go and speak to somebody in the pits and just get some information. So have you ever been that aware? I mean, obviously you are in a minority, but how aware of that have you been?
I think it's impossible not to be aware of it. When I was younger, obviously I would turn up to the track and I would be the only female there, and I would often be very much the smallest. Everyone was older than me. But I don't think, I obviously knew, but it didn't make me think anything of it. If anything, it's almost been a bit of a driving force, because I find it very empowering that men and women can compete on a level playing field together. And I think there are obviously not many sports where that is the case. So you've got to grab it and run with it, really. But I've never seen myself as a female racing driver. Whenever anyone introduces me as a female racing driver, obviously that's absolutely fine, and we're stating the obvious, and I am. But I would never say, oh, I'm a female racing driver. I would just introduce myself as a British racing driver. And I think, yeah, I suppose the perception when you were younger was different, but I think now it's very much, you are just another driver. And I think from a marketing perspective, in all fairness, it's brilliant because it's something unique, it's different. So for me personally, on a marketing side of things, it's massive. But on a personal point of view, I find it very empowering. And long may it continue.
Absolutely. You're definitely taking it to the boys, that's for sure. So has that ever been an issue in the paddock? What's been your personal perspective, generally speaking? You've obviously mentioned that you're aware of being a minority, but it's never really that on track. Has there ever been anything negative towards you?
I think when you're younger, perhaps you have like the pushy karting dads, don't you? And we were, when I was younger, I think there was that kind of element of don't you dare be beaten by the girl. But I think that's definitely changed. I mean, when I was younger, I think you had to fight a lot harder to kind of earn that respect that I think automatically a young lad turning up probably would have already had. And I think you were fighting changing that perception or the kind of traditional stereotype, perhaps. But I think certainly now, no. I think everyone believes that everyone on that grid has obviously worked hard to get there. And I think everyone equally feels that they're all deserving of being there, if that makes sense. So that doesn't change whether I'm male or female or whatever I am. And I think now it's very much equal opportunities, and I think everyone sees you as an equal, which is really important and obviously fantastic, and it's come a long way. I'm sure 20 years ago that probably wouldn't have been the case, and certainly when I was younger, I'm not sure if karting circles are still the same, but I would have thought it has improved a lot. And yeah, a few years ago, I mean, when I was a lot younger, obviously, yes, I think it was different until you earned that respect, and then you were there. But now I think for sure you rock up and you are just a driver, and that's exactly how it should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What has been the key to maintaining the kind of level of progression that you've had all throughout, really?
I think certainly my support. If I didn't have my family, it would never have happened in the first place and would never have continued so long. Or when I say family, I include Dave in that because he may as well be family. So yeah, my family team for sure, my sponsors. So without a doubt, if I didn't have all the partners that I have and continue to find and future partners and things, it just wouldn't happen either. I'm not someone that comes from, a really nice company that can fund it. I am literally going out knocking on doors or sending emails, phone calls, trying to find the right partner that will benefit from what we can offer, but also can help me along the way with my motorsport journey. So I think the key has kind of been determination and a little bit of resilience, because obviously that's not an easy job, and you get 99% no's before you find the one person willing to kind of join the journey, which is the same in anything, isn't it? But I think, you have to keep resilient and keep knocking on those doors, even when you're getting rejected, because it's not personal. It's just often not the right time for that particular company. But certainly without my partners and my team, it would have stopped 10 years ago. It's such an expensive sport. So without my funding, it would not happen, and evidently it's currently not happening yet. So it's now more than ever. It's just as important, and you can't take that for granted. And I think it's also important to give something back. I think there's a lot of things in this world where you just take, don't you? It's very important within motorsport and partnerships in particular. I don't call it sponsorship; it's a partnership, because you're giving something back and giving someone great marketing value, and that for me is really important. And you've got to work as hard as you can to give that back, because you want that partner to continue with you within the future of your sport, and most of which of mine do continue with me. So hopefully they think that we're doing something right. But you just have to work as hard as you can. And I think if you weren't 100% in, it wouldn't have happened either. So I think it's an amalgamation of things that have gone into it. But I'm just very lucky, to be honest. And I don't never take any of it for granted, because I'm sat here right now. It's not happening currently. If it were to happen this year, again, you have to grab it with both hands and do as much as you can, because you just never know when it's going to finish.
And those partners are on the journey with you. They're tooth and nail along with you. Is there anything that you would have done differently? I mean, we're not talking a 45-year career here, as I'm aware of that. But if you could go back and do anything different, would you?
I wish when I was younger I hadn't put so much pressure on myself. So I suppose that wouldn't be changing something that I've done, but I think I would like to have maybe changed my mindset a little bit and just almost relaxed a little bit more. I think when you're a very young person within a sport, it should be a hobby, whereas I feel like I was treating it as a career from a very, very young age, which I don't know has helped or not really, but I think you need the dedication. But I think perhaps I should have relaxed a little bit more. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself. So if I were to change anything, it would probably be that. But in terms of decision making and things, no. I mean, we've not always made the right decision, like I say, but I always stand by everything that we do, because at the time I've made that decision for a reason. It's not always the easy way out. I mean, we have worked incredibly hard, all of us. So I stand by everything that we've done, which is a nice position to be in. I don't want to ever look back and regret anything that's happened, and I don't. Sure. So long may that continue as well. What's
the most useful lesson that you've learned over the years?
I think, that's a hard one. Believing in yourself. I think and I continue to try and tell myself that every day. I think you really need to back yourself, because particularly when you're going into a partnership meeting, if you're not backing yourself, then you're not giving that partner or potential partner the confidence to back you, which I think I've never been an overly confident person. Maybe not now, but I think in past years, I think my team around me have often had more confidence in me than I've had in myself, which should not be the case. I mean, I think you need to be quietly humble and things and quietly confident, but you can go too far the other way, which I am in no danger of. I think my mental side, I think, could have done with improving. I mean, it's the same as kind of the previous question, really, in terms of relaxing and enjoying it a little bit more. But I think that's the biggest lesson. I think imposter syndrome is quite frequent, and I'm obviously trying to ease that out. Not in my sport, but in my job. Often I think I work things up in my head more than they are, which I'm working very hard not to be that way. But I think that's almost a nicer way, because it shows you care about it. I mean, I used to get very, very nervous. I obviously still get nervous, and you have to kind of channel that in a different direction, which I have managed to conquer. And again, you kind of have to turn it into a positive. It shows that you care, and it shows that you're actually there doing the right thing and what you should be doing, because you care enough to be nervous about it, if that makes sense. So it's a constant learning curve. Every day you learn something new. But I think a lot of it is how you deal with things mentally, because I always say you could be the best driver in the world with your hands and your feet, but if your mind's not in it, then you're never going to win. And a lot of that is a lot of a mental battle as much as anything else.
It's interesting that you mentioned slight touch of imposter syndrome. I actually think quite a lot of drivers suffer from that.
I think that's a common thing.
Yeah. What isn't common is people willing to admit that. So thank you for that. It is, I reckon, quite prevalent.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just getting over that, I would guess. So, two-sided question. What's the best part and the worst part of racing or being a driver?
So the best part is I spend a lot of the time at the racetrack, which is obviously where I love to be. All the partnerships that we make. So in all fairness, my partners are almost more like my friends, really, because they kind of join the journey and they're invested, and emotionally they're in it, which is lovely. And what a lovely position to be in, that you've got partners that are not just there for the benefit of the marketing, but they're also there just for the love. And they're not all previous motorsport fans. Some of them have just been introduced to motorsport via myself, which then have them so invested just goes to show how amazing kind of what we're trying to do is. So yeah, I would say the best part is kind of the relationships that you form, getting to do what you love to do. Obviously the adrenaline and things, and when it's going well is amazing. I think the worst part about motorsport is just that how expensive it is. Nothing else really, because obviously it is a competitive sport, and it's people are at the top of their game, and you know you commit everything to it and you put everything in as much as you can. I mean the time commitment is massive, but I'm obviously more than willing to do that because I love what we do. But I wish it didn't cost as much. Yeah. I wish it just was a little bit cheap, a little bit more accessible, because it's very hard for people to get into, I think, because it's not one of those things where you can just, I know football's quite expensive as well with the travelling and everything, but you do go and buy your football boots and off you go. Whereas for us, like, how do you begin if you're struggling for money to begin with? Do you see what I mean? It's not accessible at all.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've been thinking about this for a slightly different series that we'll be doing possibly next month, and it's in terms of the future of motorsport and how do we maintain that and get the next generation involved. And a few years ago, during I think it was the Andy Murray era of tennis, they ended up going back into schools and sort of getting the kids involved there. Now, obviously, we can't really do that with motorsport, but we can get them into STEM.
Yes.
So science, technology, maths and stuff.
Yeah.
That is certainly something that we could do. We could potentially take a dummy race car, possibly even a real race car or a rally car or whatever it happens to be, in order to get them excited about STEM, because you know, you guys do what you do out on track, but it would never happen without that team of engineers in the background. So they're just as important. So that could be a way potentially, but I mean, I don't suppose there's any real overall answer for that question. It's probably going to be lots of little things, I would imagine. I just had a thought about a question, and I'm not sure how you're going to be able to answer it, to be honest, because it is one of those questions. Can you describe what that feeling is like when you're racing on track? Is that possible?
I think for everyone it's probably different. Do you see what I mean? It's a very personal thing, isn't it? When you drive around a circuit, particularly, I always mention Brands GP. The bit that you can see, the Indy circuit, is nice and wide and flowing. It's lovely. You go out to the Brands GP section, so out the back. It's very narrow. It's all under trees. It's dark, blind corners. And you drive around there and you're giving it everything. And that is just an incredible feeling that you've put full trust in that car. You've put full trust in the track walk that you've done the night before to know where everything is, and you're just trusting that when you go around that next corner, there's nothing there. You're putting your absolute faith in the team around you, and I think when that then goes well, and you're never going to do the perfect lap because you can always go faster, but when you do a good lap and everything comes together, that is. Yeah, so I guess in short, no, but because I can't explain that. But it's like you're just alone in your car, giving it everything that you can, and all of the hard work and effort is then going into that one thing. But when you get it right, or to the best of your ability on that day, I think that's just an incredible feeling. And it's very hard to describe actually, but it's such an adrenaline rush. It's such an emotional experience. It's very hard to describe. But I think a lot of sports people can kind of relate to that, when they're in their element doing what they're doing.
Yeah, the adrenaline rush you get is addictive. Very addictive.
Yeah.
One final question then. What would be your advice for any would-be racers wanting to get into the sport?
I think definitely make sure that you enjoy it first before you go full hell for leather into it, because obviously it is a fair commitment, and both when you begin, obviously you're probably going to be funding it yourself, so it is a fair monetary commitment and time commitment, so you need to make sure that you're invested and want to do it. But I think when you've then decided that and the answer to that is a yes, I think you then need to put absolutely everything into it. And I don't mean money, but I mean you need to be full effort. Every day needs to be 100%, because there will be people that have the budget that you don't, so you have to make up for it in other ways. If it's something that you need to work for, which like myself it is, then you can't do it half-heartedly, because again, I don't want to look back and think, oh shit, I could have tried harder. I didn't put every bit of my being into every day, and I want to really look back on that, and if it doesn't work out, obviously know that in myself I did as much as I can. So I think you have to be committed. It is quite a high commitment sport, and you have got to put a lot of time into it, and it's as simple as that. But it's not easy, but if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, and I think it makes it more worthwhile in the end.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much for your time, Lydia. I really do appreciate it. And
thanks for having me
on the show today. An amazing story. So yeah, if you are interested, get involved with your local motor club for a start. That would be a good place to start, your local motor club.
We need more people involved in motorsport for sure. Absolutely,
because without the people, we are the lifeblood of the sport. It will just disappear, and we do need that next generation.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
And as amazing as driving must be on a track at that level, there are other avenues if that's your bag. So just 100%. Do it. Just go for it. Thank you very much. And good luck for the 2026 season as well. I hope you get all that sorted as well.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, you're welcome back whenever you like. Thanks, Lydia.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.